Chapter 3. Are you ready for married life? The answer to this question is deceptively simple. You are ready if you are old enough. But how old are you? There are several yardsticks beside the calendar for measuring your age. Educators enjoy telling the story of the wise young orphan. When a sweet old lady leaned over and asked him his age, the young man removed his glasses, polished them thoughtfully for a minute, and then replied, "My physiologic age, madam, is 12 years. My moral age is 10 years. My social age is 8 years. My anatomical and physiological ages are, respectively, 6 and 7, but I have not been informed of my chronological age. That, I understand, is a matter of comparative insignificance." When we ask you if you are old enough to marry, we mean mature enough, and maturity, as it bears on your readiness for marriage, can be measured in at least 5 ways: physiological, mental, vocational, sexual, and emotional maturity. By these standards, some people are not old enough to marry when they are 35. How old are you physiologically? The adolescence of the early teens is characterized by rapid bodily growth in height, weight, and sexual development. By 18, however, you are nearly as tall as you will ever be. Sexual growth, while not complete, especially for a girl, has reached a point where reproduction is possible. General growth slows down considerably, and by 24 has just about stopped. For purposes of marriage, the average person is mature physiologically by the age of 20, but some require more time because of glandular disturbances. How old are you mentally? We do not mean what is your IQ, which is a measure of your capacity to learn, but rather the accumulation of your learning. In short, how wise are you? Normally, a person must live 21 or 22 years before he has seen enough of life through schooling and practical experience to take on the responsibilities that go with marriage. If you have led a sheltered or one-sided life, it will probably take longer. How old are you vocationally? A man certainly is not mature until he has established that he can earn a living. A college degree, a license to practice medicine, to teach, or to practice barbering are not enough. There must be a successful work record, and that cannot be present until a person has used his vocational knowledge to make a living for a period of not less than 1 year. Once it was thought that girls needed no special training vocationally, but that notion is pretty well outdated now. Modern women like to feel independent, and frequently their ability to earn money is called into use. Perhaps the husband is a disabled war veteran, or perhaps the wife feels she needs a career to earn money. At the least, the girl entering marriage should already be capable of managing a home, and that requires skill and knowledge that can't be learned in a nightclub. Since some occupations require many more years of education and training than others, vocational maturity can fall anywhere between 18 and 26, but for most people it doesn't come until about the age of 22. How old are you sexually? Sexual maturity implies far more than the ability to beget or bear a child. Most morons can do this. Sexual maturity is largely determined by childhood. It is something most people either have or don't. A youngster who was reared by parents who were well balanced emotionally, who were ready listeners to his problems, who explained comprehensively the magic and mystery of sex functions to him, will usually be ready to face the problems of sexual adolescence. During adolescence, he will be subjected to many strains. He will undergo many glandular changes and begin to have sexual capacity. The reproductive apparatus approaches maturity between the ages of 12 and 14. The boy has emissions. The girl begins to menstruate. Both often are disturbed or even frightened by these new functions, unless the parent has been wise enough to prepare them for the changes. During adolescence, they start dating, which at first is done self-consciously and awkwardly. Their state of mind is made more nervous if the parents tease or ridicule these first steps in courting. When the boy and girl emerge from adolescence at the age of 18, they have achieved sexual maturity if all has gone well. If so, there is freedom from repression and inhibitions concerning sex. There is no disgust or aversion as far as sex is concerned. Likewise, there is no abnormal curiosity or longing for sexual information or experience. He or she may still be shy or self-conscious at first when in the presence of someone of the opposite sex, but both soon get over it when they find activities to share. This is normally easy because by 18, youngsters have acquired skill in dancing, card playing, sports, hobbies, and conversing. If by 18 or 20, a person hasn't acquired sexual maturity in the sense described, it might be a good idea to consult a marriage counseling bureau, a college psychoeducational clinic, a psychologist, or some other person trained in helping normal people achieve normal adjustments. How old are you emotionally? This is by far the most significant of all your ages in determining your readiness to marry. Most of the research on marriage indicates that people who lack emotional maturity rarely achieve a happy marriage. What is emotional maturity, you may ask? It's a state of mind that includes ability to get along with people, ability to find satisfaction and reward in work, ability to recognize and solve problems which involve your relations with others, and finally it includes freedom from instability and neuroticism. As in sexual maturity, which is closely related to emotional maturity, the first 10 years of life are apparently the most important in determining if you will be emotionally stable. Certainly by the age of 18, a person should have a pretty firm hold on his emotions. If he has not acquired such balance by 21 or 22, the outlook is not too promising, and he should deliberately set out to achieve better control of himself. A stenographer of 24 came to the Penn State Marriage Counseling Service for advice after she had had a dozen promiscuous affairs with men. She came from a broken home where her parents had taken only an erratic interest in her, and she showed serious signs of emotional instability, as do virtually all promiscuous girls and men. Here is the verbatim report that was written on Sandra. It provides a classic picture of emotional instability. Sandra feels inferior, does many unconventional things, has few standards or ideals. Badly maladjusted, she flirts from one boy to another, seeking new thrills. Quite promiscuous and highly sexed, she has had sexual affairs with 12 or 13 men. Somewhat popular while in college, with attractive face and nice figure, she was dated by many boys, none of whom even went with her for more than 4 dates. Easily persuaded to any course of action, she could readily excuse any breach of behavior. Changeable and selfish, but anxious to be known as a campus queen, she openly sought dates and a sort of dubious and short-lived popularity. Because of her instability, total lack of standards, ideals, and morals, and her selfishness and shallowness, she is unlikely to marry unless she catches a rich sucker. She is in 6 danger zones on her audit profile. May the Lord help the poor man who is inveigled into marriage. No boy has ever proposed marriage to her, a fact that has hurt her vanity. To pin emotional maturity down more specifically, here side by side are 8 traits, one or more of which are frequently noted in persons who are considered emotionally immature, and 8 noted in mature persons. Immature is aggressive and domineering, is rebellious and bullheaded, is full of hates and prejudices, is often victim of illusions, has many phobias, inhibitions, is victim of imaginary pains, stuttering, hysteria, tremors, insomnia, is high-strung, is often indecisive and anxious. Mature, gets along with people, has satisfying home life, profits from his mistakes, is successful in work, respects authority and customs. He faces his problems, accepts responsibility for own acts. He is consistent and predictable. A person can be emotionally unstable and not show all of those symptoms, but he undoubtedly will show some of them. What can anyone do to improve his control over his emotions and thus achieve greater emotional maturity? Here are a few suggestions. Try to look at yourself objectively. Try to do so especially in connection with your relations to others. Are you reasonable rather than prejudiced? Can you recognize that a man may be a fine person even though he is a Republican or a Democrat? That he is a good person even though he may be a Protestant or a Catholic? Do you honestly try to make decisions on the basis of facts rather than the basis of feelings or imaginary facts that are more agreeable to you? Sit down every few weeks and try deliberately to look at yourself as others must see you. Would you like yourself if you were someone else? Learn to laugh at yourself. The person who can laugh at himself or who can laugh at the things he loves and continue to love them is the person who is most likely to have insight into himself. and that insight is important in emotional maturity. If you have a sense of the ridiculous, you can see fun in many of your own activities, and in doing so are able to relax and feel happy. You learn to laugh at your troubles, yet at the same time do your best to improve the situation. This ability to see the ridiculous side acts as a cushion and helps you maintain your stability, even when things are most exasperating. Set up a confidential relationship with some other person. Telling your problems to another person helps you define the problem in your own mind. It furnishes relief from the tensions you have built up, and it brings another person's point of view into the picture. One of the biggest single values in marriage is the fact that it provides husband and wife with a confidant in each other, and gives them the confidential relationship that is so important to mental integration. Seek work that satisfies you. Nothing will prevent you from getting a hold on your emotions more than being confined every day to work that is disagreeable to you. If you find it is uninteresting or doesn't challenge you or doesn't offer any opportunity as a stepping stone to more challenging work, change jobs. But do it intelligently, because the person who is a frequent job jumper is not a good marriage risk. Recently we talked to a man who is 44 years of age. He had been divorced once and is now unhappily living with a second wife, wants to divorce her and marry a third woman. His job record shows that he has held 39 different jobs in his life. Is it any wonder that he is unlikely to find happiness or stability in life? He does not know what he wants, can't learn from experience, and is pursuing a will-o'-the-wisp. When you have a problem, face it squarely. Define the problem, get all the facts, and line up alternative solutions in case the first course isn't successful. Many people seem incapable of defining their problems. When they are faced with a frustrating situation, they are frequently unable to vary their attack upon it. When a girl can't get her way, she cries. Crying may bring her some reduction of tension, but it does not solve the problem. The emotionally mature person can keep his head, figure out something to do, but the immature person gives up or cries or gets drunk. We have devoted so much more space to your emotional age than to the other 4 ages, physiological, mental, vocational, and sexual, because it is so fundamental to marriage success. If you find after reading this chapter you want to know more about developing your own maturity, you will find further suggestions in the chapters Getting Along with the Other Sex, Attracting the One You Want, and Crucial Traits for Marriage Happiness. When all the 5 ages are taken into consideration, it would seem that a girl should not consider marriage until she is at least 19 or 20, and the man should not before he is 21 or 22. Those are minimum ages for normal men and girls. Those who develop slower than average in any of the 5 ages should try to wait a year or 2 longer before deciding about marriage. Are you old enough to marry? Your chronological age is not as important as some of your other ages in determining whether you are ready for marriage. The informal check below may give you a rough idea of your maturity for marriage. Physiological maturity. Are you 20 years old or older? Are you in good general health? As far as you know, is your glandular balance normal? Mental maturity. Did you finish the 8th grade without repeating more than 1 grade? Do you read the news daily? By age 20, had you completed at least 2 years of college or earned your own living for 2 years? Vocational maturity. Are you prepared by education or experience to make a living in a specific occupation or in managing a home? Have you attained your 22nd birthday? Do you have a job doing work for which you have prepared? Sexual maturity. Have you been dating at least once a month since age 16? Are your attitudes towards sex free from disgust or aversion? Were your parents easy to talk to about sex? Emotional maturity. Do you get along well with people? Do you trust people and do they trust you? Do you usually do today what is supposed to be done today? Give yourself 1 point for each yes answer. You should have a total score of at least 12 and should have no less than 2 yes answers in each category if you are to be judged old enough to marry. Are you grown up emotionally? More than almost anything else, your rating on emotional maturity reveals your chances of achieving a happy marriage. Here is a more detailed test of your rating on this crucial trait. Answer yes only if you are sure. Can you accept criticism without having your feelings hurt? Are you normally free from jealousy? When you have differences with people, can you usually work out compromises that satisfy you and don't leave hard feelings? Do you behave yourself because it seems the natural thing to do, and not because you fear the consequences of misbehaving? Do you think most people are honest, decent, and worthwhile? Are you happy most of the time and free from violent emotional outbursts? Before beginning a new project or making a final decision, do you honestly weigh the arguments for and against it? Can you be away from the place you live for a month without getting homesick? Do you willingly abide by established authority and the customs of your community? Can you make your own personal decisions without depending on friends and relatives to help you make up your mind? Are you free from vague aches, nail-biting, flustered stammering? Can you postpone something you want to do now in order to have greater enjoyment later? Are you living zestfully in the present instead of bragging about past deeds? Do you go to sleep easily and normally slumber without nightmares? Do you get along well with your parents, relatives, and close friends? When things go wrong, do you find the cause and correct it instead of blaming others or lamenting your bad breaks? Are you living up to the responsibilities which go along with the privileges given to you? Have you friends among both sexes, some older and some younger than you are? If you honestly answered yes to 14 of these or more, you are more mature emotionally than the average person. If you answered yes to 16 or more, you should have an exceptionally good chance for a happy marriage.